What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about potential leaks for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This came up on Reddit. Now, the interesting thing here, and again, we take this with a grain of salt, and for this is very much a, do we believe it's real, do we not? It's up to you guys to decide. I'm not here to tell you what to think. It literally has no source. That's what it's classified as on Reddit, and they even say, you're just basically you're gonna have to trust them, though they don't say that in specifically. But let's read through this. I don't love it. In fact, I don't like it at all, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see, what happens also on Saturday. With DC fandom soon approaching, I thought I'll drop you guys a bit of info about how the live service components of the game will work. Everything I say here is as much as I'm able to get away with telling. As far as I'm currently aware, a major focus on the game's panel will be the live service functionality. So here's all I know. Pre-ordering will get you early access to a raid-esque set of storyline missions in which you take on Ra's al Ghul. Rocksteady has been spending a lot of time focused on crafting a roadmap that they know they'll be able to deliver on for around the first year of content. Delivering content consistently whilst also living up to promises that they are giving has been a huge focus for them. New members being added to the squad isn't a priority, while adding more playable characters is a possibility. The majority of the content updates will be related to the continual story and location additions with new missions, loot, etc. Loot is a pretty big part of the game, obviously with it being a looter shooter, and mainly impacts weapons and the mobility capabilities of all of the characters. Well, that's all. All of this will be showcased on October 16th during the game's featured panel. Have a good one. Now, it's being upvoted generally high. The comments are generally positive, especially for Reddit. So, really, I think what people have kind of taken from this, and what I've seen echoed, at least in the Reddit, thread or the Reddit comments, is that even if this is not true, or this person is not a leaker, this stuff seems pretty accurate. You know what I mean? Now, there's easy ways of telling at this, well, not right now, but there will be easy ways of telling if this is true, right? The pre-order thing is the first one. I'm glad they led with that, because it's like, well, okay, if they're telling the truth, and you would ideally assume, because they did say the Ra's al Ghul thing, that means pre-orders would be available on Saturday. So that also means a release date, in my opinion. I don't think you do pre-orders. In fact, normally, as we've seen for games, most games tend to lean towards the, pre-ordering it once you know a pretty solidified date. So, I've said for a while, I think Gotham Knights is a lock that we're going to get a release date for Gotham Knights. Suicide Squad, I'm a lot more iffy on. But you know what? Again, if this is all true, then that, I think it connects. I think then Saturday we would get a release date. It would probably be at the end of 2022, I would imagine. We'd be able to pre-order it immediately, and then we would know that if you pre-order it, or maybe a different, deluxe edition or ultimate edition or whatever, you would get this Ra's al Ghul thing. Now, I don't love at all. Well, here's the thing. I'm not a pre-order guy, especially the older I've gotten in life. I don't think games have really deserved us to pre-order them. Very, very few, and less as time kind of goes on. It kind of just sends a message that, you're in no matter what kind of garbage or BS games pull nowadays. So I've just historically, as time's gone on, I've pre-ordered less and less games. I normally buy the game the night before, and that's if I'm really sure about it. And then obviously some games that I pass on, I pass on them. So, I really do not like the idea that you attach an entire link of missions with a pre-order. I think that's very stupid. I would never support that, no matter what. And by the way, this is not a Marvel versus DC thing. This is literally me talking about my opinion on a game that I want to be good. And I love Rocksteady, and I love the Arkham games. But I've been worried about Suicide Squad since day one, while giving it a chance. And again, sure, you can say, well, Alex, it's just a leak, it's just a rumor, we don't know. I get it. That's what I said earlier. And there's people that are going to say that to me no matter what. Hopefully they listen long enough. But I want this game to be as good as possible. I do. I even would want, I guess, to compare it to Marvel. If this game wants to do Marvel's Avengers, I hope it does it successfully. I hope it's a successful live service game. Now, I don't like live service games. I think a lot of them are done very poorly, but obviously I'm going to root for it, just like I rooted for Marvel's Avengers, and that didn't turn out the greatest, in my opinion, and so we'll see for this one. But, again, that's the first thing. I don't like attaching it, but it is a big thing. If you pre-order it, you get entire missions of Ra's al Ghul. That's pretty cool. I just don't like them attaching it to, pre-ordering it. A roadmap? Okay, well then look. And we know this. Like, here's the thing with this game. Like, we know it's a live servicey game. We know it's a game that's supposed to last a while. We do know if there's any game we're supposed to compare. Now, not specifically, but out of the two, when Gotham Knights came out, people were afraid, people were worried, and people were comparing it to Avengers. But the thing that a lot of people have always said is if there's any game you should compare to Marvel's Avengers, it's not Gotham Knights, it's Suicide Squad. So, again, if you're going to go that route, I would suggest you make the game packed initially. That's the biggest issue with Avengers. It still is the biggest issue with Avengers. And I guess I'd like the idea that you've got a year one roadmap planned out. But let me promise you something. The DC community is ruthless, and I think in a good way. And if the game comes out and it's empty at launch, and like Avengers, I believe that, and then you give us stuff as time goes on, I'm not really going to accept that. I would still call that a failure. I guess it's not a failure to a live service game, but it'd be a failure to just, I guess, like what I want from a game. So please, for the love of God, I understand, you need, and that is important. I mean, if the game, here's the deal, on the other side of things, thinking positively, if the game comes out and it's like a real game, like there's stuff to do for a while, and then you also give very consistent, very predictable updates to the game for the first year, I would consider that successful. Now, I don't really need Suicide Squad to keep me busy for like a year and a half, 2 years, but if they want to do that, especially for people that are into that kind of thing, right? Fine. And I've never had a problem with that. So, and I'd be happy for those people. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think I'd be playing this game for like a year and a half consistently. I try to play like 1,000 other games, but that's a good benchmark to try to hit. The new members thing, it's actually kind of confusing. New members being added to the Suicide Squad isn't a priority, but adding more playable characters is a possibility. Well, isn't that the same thing? Like I don't actually. So if I were to call out anything about the leak, I'd call out that. That doesn't really, or I guess, well, no, because they said Squad. It's not like they said Justice League. You know what I mean? So like, I'd imagine that's, I think, going to be a difficult thing too, is coming up with villains. But like, that doesn't. I think that contradicts itself. You guys can maybe let me know if I'm thinking wrong. But I like the idea of them constantly adding new characters. Now, I guess not constantly. You don't have to do it all the time. But I think it's important. I think if you only have 4. Look, Rocksteady made one of the greatest combat systems ever. Okay. The guy who, and I guess, I don't remember the guy's name, but there's like a specific guy who's kind of credited with making that free flow combat. He actually went over to Monolith and helped them with the Shadow of Mordor. So like this guy is a legend. Rocksteady's a legend. I have no doubt the game will probably, even though it is more of like a looter shooter, like a third-person-y kind of thing, I still think it's going to be rather fun to play. Like, and hopefully it's got that entertaining loop. But no matter what, I think, again, playing a game, playing as the same characters for like a year and a half, there's only so much you can add to them or change them or give them different villains to fight. You're still playing as the same characters with the same movesets, right? So you have, eventually you have to add more, but then you enter the trap of like, well, you got to give them story, you got to give them personality, you got to make them in line with the others. You can't make them too powerful, you can't make them too weak, and like not everybody is successful on that. You look at Avengers, they don't do it all that often, but they run into some problems. I always go to like Dead by Daylight as one of my go-tos. I mean, they did an incredible job, but even them, there's some killers that they've added over time that's been phenomenal. There's also some that's been horrible that never get played, and some have been way too powerful at launch, some have been way too weak, and you run into those issues when you do this kind of stuff. And then the loot is a pretty big part of the game, mainly impacts weapons and mobility of the character, so like movement. Again, I mean, I don't really have much to say to that other than that's worrisome just hearing it. But I mean, that again, like here's the thing. I don't want you guys to leave the video, and I'm sure some people already have, thinking like, well, Alex is he's going in with like the most negative attitude humanly possible. Not really. Number one, this leak I just read could very well not be true. Secondly, I'm still going to go in with an open mind and giving them a chance. That's always kind of been the case. Thirdly, it's just that these things have historically not worked well. I understand people wanting to have the attitude of like, well, you can't say literally anything negative until you see the game. I get it, but I'm not part of that group, and I never have been, I never will be. I mean, I can have my own opinion. You guys come here to watch me, but also these things just scare me. Like when you read this stuff, it gives you an impression. Now, whether you attach it to Suicide Squad or you just read it and you just picture it in a game, just picture a game with these mechanics. And then how do you view that game? That's what it does to anybody, literally anybody. Now, what you choose to do with that is up to you. So, again, like if this stuff happens, I'm not going to be thrilled. I'm just flat out not. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to hope for the best. I gave Avengers a chance, as I constantly say. I played Avengers for an entire month straight. Every single day for like 4.5 weeks, I played Avengers, okay? And I got burnt out, and I have a love-hate relationship. I liked parts of it, but I also despise quite a bit of Avengers. And that's just my personal opinion. But I gave it a chance. I mean, you cannot come at me saying that, you never played it or you didn't play it long enough. No, I did both of those, right? So I'm hoping Suicide Squad, if it does want to be like Avengers, which I can't imagine any game would actually want to do that, I'm going to give it a chance, but I'm really... you got to look at the potential, faults of it. That's probably not what people want, and that's just, I guess, an opinion, and we'll have to see. I could go on probably for an hour on this, but I'll cut it off here. We'll see on Saturday. We'll see. It could honestly go either way, and we'll have plenty to talk about Saturday on. So I will be making videos, if you guys didn't know that, Saturday for DC Fandom. We'll talk about Suicide Squad, what they show, and then we'll go from there, a couple days after as well. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on so you know when all the videos go up, including the DC Fandom stuff. All my social media is in the description below if you guys want to check it out. My Twitter, my second channel, our Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next video.